Hey everybody, it's James Veigli. Welcome aboard another episode of the MBA podcast. And it is episode 168. Before we kick off, I want to know how the man, the myth, the legend is doing. That's Ash Playsted. How are you?
Coming in from a secret location, the book and whiskey bunker, I'm calling it. I'm super well, James. How are you doing?
Very good. I'm very good. Listeners, hope you're doing very well too. So it's early January and we're on a bit of a theme this month around expertise to help you attract more customers and referral partners. And what we're talking about today is this concept of 10,000 hours to become an expert. We've heard this. I'm guessing you've heard it, Ash, listeners. You've probably heard that line that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert. Do you know if that's a saying, Ash, or a book? I've definitely heard it a number of times. Do you know the origin of that?
Yeah, I've got the book right behind me, James. It's called
Really?
Mastery. It's written by a guy called Robert Greene. Now, he may have taken the phrase from somewhere else, but I believe he's the origination point. So he put forward, the theory of mastery. It takes 10,000 hours. I think he drew inspiration from other sources, but yeah, Robert Greene, Greene. He's a really good critical thinker and written several books, but yeah, the one sitting behind me, the black and gold, is called Mastery. So as far as I know, that was the origination point of the 10,000 hour rule.
Wow, that's listeners, this is completely not synchronized or planned in that I did not know at all that Ash had that book. So that is like, I don't know, the moons must be in alignment. Listeners, so obviously, yeah, 10,000 hours to become an expert. You want to be a professional tennis player? There's no cutting corners. You need to hit thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of balls over thousands of hours and years. If you want to be a world champion surfer, if you want to be a master chess player, it takes tens of thousands of hours to achieve that mastery and expertise. In business, in mortgage broking, we want to talk about in this episode a faster way. Because, I mean, what's the maths, Ash? Like, what's 10,000 hours? If you dedicate 8 hours a day to honing your craft, which, if you think about it, is unrealistic because you're going to be busy working with clients and doing the work. Like, at best, a broker might dedicate, 30 hours a year to professional development?
Well, look, I mean, somebody get on your calculator and correct me, but there's 168 hours in a week. Coincidentally, we're in episode number 168. Multiply that by 52 weeks of a year. That's what, 10,000 approximately. So, it might take you a year studying full time all day, every day without a break to master something. You'll be frazzled and worn out and probably in the ground. But, I on the topic of 10,000 hours, like what you were mentioning before, James, just to dive in a little bit, and I think this is where there's some confusion, right? If you want to be a brain surgeon, yes, you need to put in the 10,000 hours because technique and technical knowledge is everything, as well as some mindset and ability to control your emotions when you're, in someone's brain or body, right? So, but you need to put in a lot of hours. So your expertise and your market positioning comes from that expertise, right? So then you bring it over to business and mortgage broking, right? Where when we talk about the surgeon mindset, about how you position yourself, and here's where it gets really interesting for me, is in the client's mind, whether or not you've got the 10,000 hours or not is not relevant to them. They don't really know, and they don't really see what goes on behind the scenes, right? All they know is how you position yourself and whether you get the job done or not, right? And we talk a lot about all the systems and processes and checks and balances, which you can teach anyone to do reasonably well, right? And then you blend in the technical skill, which most mortgage brokers have a high degree of technical skill, some more than others. And some people focus on complex loans more than others. But generally speaking, most mortgage brokers possess a good level of technical skill. So you've got to ask yourself is, what is it that people perceive about you that draws them to you, that sort of expert authority that I guess we call it. And I think where we're going with this is really, it comes from your positioning. It comes from the level of specific focus on what you do, or the specificity, or niching, as you might want to call it. And we always talk about these examples, these analogies, right? Where, people, if you're looking for a brain surgeon, you don't go to a general practitioner. You might go there to get a referral perhaps, but you certainly don't hire a generalist to do a specific job. And I think this is, for me, it's a great way of, I guess, intensifying or even clearing the air about how to position yourself as an expert. And I was having this conversation with one of our members recently, James, and this very conversation about, well, how do you become an expert? And I said, well, what do you consider an expert? Someone who knows more than their client. And I said, boom, right there, right? You don't need to know everything. You just need to know more than your client, right? And how much do clients know about mortgages? Not very much.
Zero. Yeah, not much. Yeah, every single one of our listeners, every single broker already knows more than their customers. So in that way, you're already an expert. Ash, I want to take a second. I just thought of something as you were talking about that difference between technical and perceived expert. And I think in terms of technical expertise, I think brokers are very good at this. And in actual fact, we spend too much of our time on improving technical skills. Like, I want to be a better broker. I want to make my process more efficient. I want to, systemize and automate and put all these things to make sure I get the outcome easier and faster and better. So we almost overdo the technical side of things. What brokers are missing is that they're not working on the perceived expertise. There's too little attention and time and resources dedicated to how they're perceived by the market, their customers, their partners, et cetera, and the funny thing is, that's where all the money is. So all of the partnerships, all of the leads, all of the marketing that works is all in the perception, not at all in the technical stuff. I mean, it's sorry to say, listeners, but people don't care. As long as you can get them the outcome, your ability to be a better technical broker than the next person is kind of irrelevant as long as you can get the outcome. And we know, Ash, all our listeners can get the outcome. So why is there so little attention given by brokers to being perceived in the marketplace as a true expert? We know this is the case.
Well, it's a very good point, James. And just to pick away at that, and as you know, and as a lot of you listeners probably know, I have a particular passion and curiosity about human behavior and psychology and mindset, mental fitness. So it's something that I'm very passionate about. And where that plays into this discussion is, I think a lot of the problem, and how would I put this? It's only a problem to the client or partner to the extent that it's a problem to you. So what do I mean by that? Right. So it's an imposter syndrome. It's a feeling of, I can't pretend to be something that I'm not. Right. So there's that sort of humility, which is an Aussie thing, very good Aussie trait, humbleness. And I think it gets in the way, though, for a lot of people about pitching themselves out there as an authority and an expert. And I'm going to quote a line here, right? I watched this on a show. I do watch a little bit of Netflix occasionally, listeners, but I like to watch true crime and, sort of really interesting documentaries. There's a show on it, which I won't mention the name, but it's about surgeons working in a New York hospital. And it's a really good show. And one of the surgeons was asked about, what motivates him. And he said, really honestly, it's the urgent need to be needed. That's what fills him up. And this guy was a thoracic neurosurgeon, or even a pediatric neurosurgeon, very, very specific. And the thing that came out of it, which is where I'm leading, is he goes, in this field, in this career, you must believe you are the best in the world, because if you don't, anxiety will overrun you. So I'll just repeat that. He said, you must believe you are the best in the world at what you do. Right? Otherwise, the anxiety will crush you. Right? So I want listeners to try and take the essence of that message. You must believe you're the best in the world at what you do. Now, I know there's 19,000 of you, maybe not all of you listening to this, hopefully quite a few. And you think to yourself, well, how can we all be at the best in the world? Well, that's the wrong question to ask yourself. The question is, we can all be the best in the world at what we do in our own mind, right?
Mm.
So once you lock it into your own thought processes, that's what you portray out as the expert authority. And that's the message I took out of this TV show. I thought, that's amazing. You know, you must believe you're the best in the world. And anyone who's ever done a loan for a surgeon would know where I'm coming from. A little bit of that God complex does come through, right?
Yep.
Into the rest of their lives, because they are dealing literally with people's lives. But as a business owner and a mortgage broker, we can learn a lot from that. Like, find the right mindset coach, find the right process, find a way to uncover your inner brain surgeon and your inner, I'm the best at in the world at this, right?
Yep.
Doesn't matter whether you know every piece of policy of every lender. Who cares, right? You can get other people to find that out for you. But what you must believe is, I am the best in the world at what I do.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because we're talking about perceived or technical expertise, but wrapped around all that is the belief. Like, it first starts with the belief that you're a knowledgeable enough mortgage broker that can get the job done. And it also starts, and if you believe that, then you also will believe that you deserve to be seen as an expert as well. And one thing I wrote down and thought about in that context of belief and perceived and technical expertise is that you have to have confidence and control the situation with partners, with clients, because that's where, when you step up and control and be confident and lead your customers, your partners, is where all the results are. But it has to start first with that belief that you can get the job done, and belief that you are an expert that stands above everybody else. So instead of spending 10,000 hours crafting our technical expertise, Ash, we'd love our listeners to think we're good enough already as mortgage brokers. Yes, we need to continue our professional development, keeping up to date with policies, working on our processes. But I think I'd love our listeners to spend more time and energy on that belief that they should put themselves on a pedestal and manufacture that perception of expertise, really stand out and have that control and confidence that, you know what, I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to lead the situation. I'm going to tell my clients what to do. I'm going to work with my referral partners. I'm going to ask for business. And people respond to that very, very, very strongly. So you don't need 10,000 hours to do that. If you bunker yourself down for even just a few dozen hours, you can transform the way you think about yourself. And then when you think differently, you'll approach everything differently. So 10,000 hours to become an expert? Yes, if you're playing the piano or playing tennis, surfing, mortgage brokers, you should spend your time manufacturing the perception of your expertise, and it starts from within. There's some other active strategies we can mention too, Ash, but this is the key.
Yeah, absolutely. And to take that thinking a little bit further, and this is one of the things that came out of this show. This surgeon was speaking that, yes, I'm the best at what I do in the world. However, there are also things I don't know. And here's the team of experts I've got around me, right? Now, we come across this a lot, right? But this is a very big stumbling block, that you've got to think you're the best in the world at what you do, but you've also then got to be honest and say, well, here's things that I'm not the best at, right? And I think this is an opportunity to start thinking about how you position your team, your processes, you know, so that's where you can be the best in the world. It's not about being the best broker. It's about being the best provider of a solution. And that is, we're the best at this, we're the best at this, the process, the system, and here's the people that are going to be assisting me. And this is something that we talk about a lot, with bringing your team into the discussion from the very get-go. Even on your social media, start to talk about your support team. They're the best at what they do. And this is something, again, that, you know, this is where I think a lot of human beings struggle with this sort of in a conflict. I've got to be the best at what I can do. I do, but in the same breath, I'm also saying, well, here's things I'm not the best at, and here's the people helping me do that. So when I say the best, it's really a business. Like, here's the ecosystem I've created, and it's the best, perfect client journey experience that we've built that delivers best in world experiences and outcomes. That's what I'm talking about. So just for listeners to take away, it's an overarching mindset that applies across your business, not just to your technical ability to open up someone's brain and stitch a vein back together, which is metaphorically, solving a complex loan problem. Yeah, I think we've all got certain abilities there. It's everything else around it that you're the best in the world at.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up as a final thought as well, is that expertise doesn't have to mean that you, our listeners, can do everything and know everything. That's a big complex in the mortgage industry to go, I want to help this client that's lost their job, got no money, but wants to buy a house. Like, brokers seem to take on all of these problems and try and work miracles for every single person. You want to do a 5-unit development, and this is your situation, you're self-employed, you went bankrupt 5 years ago, but it's my job as a broker to figure it out. Like, that's going down a rabbit hole problem we can talk about another time, Ash. But I like what you said, in that being an expert doesn't mean you can help everybody. The heart surgeon doesn't go, oh, you need brain surgery. Yeah, I can do that. I can figure that out. No, they say, no, go over here. And they stick to heart surgery. Correct. So that's a topic we can probably talk about next week, Ash, in that by being a specialist, you can focus on one thing and become very, very good at that and be perceived as the go-to expert in that, and have all of the clients come to you just for that, but you don't have to worry about being an expert at all the other things. It's a much better place to be as a broker in a business compared with trying to help John, Dick, Harry, mums and dads refinances, commercial investment, equipment finance, which is what every broker is trying to do. And then they wonder why they're spinning their wheels, and it's really hard.
Well, James, listeners, I'm going to leave it on this. This is my last thought, and this is episode 168. Last week, it was 167. Surprise, surprise. And in episode 167, I'd suggest go back and listen to that episode again, where we talk about predictions and trends in the industry. I'm going to add a post-episode prediction. 2024 is going to be the era of specialization, right? Specialization, which is hand in glove with being an expert. So that's what's going to really start to intensify, is people are going to be wanting to deal with specific experts, subject matter experts, not brokers that can do lots of things. So take that on board as a prediction, but also a trend, and also something that fits very snugly into this episode about how to establish expert authority in the marketplace and draw as much business as you can handle to you, that rather than pushing out there and trying to help everybody.
Perfect. Well said, Ash. And look, you've tied in the last episode. It works with this episode, and listeners, that's actually what we're going to talk about next week too. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that thought and strategy of specialist, or becoming a specialist. So I guess until next week, Ash, until next week, listeners, we hope you continue to enjoy your day and week, and looking forward to seeing you next week, Ash.
Likewise, James, looking forward to it.
Great. See you, everybody.